जहां तक कश्मीर का सवाल है, ना सिर्फ पाकिस्तान पीपल्स पार्टी मगर पाकिस्तान का हर सियासी जमात कश्मीर के हवाले से एक वाज़े पैगाम रखते हैं। इस जंग के सिलसिले में जो कश्मीर के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में सफारती सतह पे काफ़ी पेशरफ्त हुआ है इस अंदाज से कि भारत ने 2019 के बाद ये समझा कि इन्होंने कश्मीर को एक अंदरूनी मसला में तब्दील कर दिया। जब प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप इस जंग के बाद कहता है कि कश्मीर पे हमें मीडिएशन करना ज़रूरी है, तो कश्मीर का इशू अंदरूनी से लेके बैनुल-अक़वामी इशू बन जाता। कश्मीर के मसले के हवाले से एक वाज़े डेवलपमेंट्स अभी सामने आए हैं और इंशाअल्लाह ताला मज़ीद डेवलपमेंट्स सामने आएंगे। शहीद मोहतरमा बेनज़ीर भुट्टो ने हमें सिखाया कि होप फॉर द बेस्ट एंड प्रिपेयर फॉर द वर्स्ट। तो जहां हम अमन के लिए कोशा है और ये जद्दोजहद जारी रहेगा और हम समझते हैं कि अमन ही हमारे दोनों ममालिक के अवाम के फायदे में है, साथ साथ हमारा तैयारी जारी है कि भारत ने ये साबित कर दिया कि ये वॉर मॉन्गरिंग नेशन है। झूठ के बिना पे जंग उन्होंने शुरू किया, शिकस्त खाने के बावजूद वो ऐसे बातें कर रहे हैं कि वो फिर से जंग छेड़ना चाहेंगे। तो जहां हम अमन का अपना कोशिश जारी रखेंगे वहां हमारा तैयारी भी है। और आपने देखा जिस अंदाज से इस बजट में पाकिस्तान की दिफाई बजट को हमने इजाफा किया, ये दोनों सिलसिले साथ साथ चलते हुए आपको नजर आ रहा है। चीन का किरदार हमने हमेशा वेलकम किया है, जिस तरीके से इन्होंने इस जंग के दौरान एक बड़े वाज़े रिस्पॉन्सिबल रोल प्ले किया, उसको भी हम वेलकम करते हैं। और हम समझते हैं कि पूरा इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी को अमन कायम करने के लिए अपना किरदार अदा करना पड़ेगा।
Absolutely. One of the many issues is the weaponization of water. Through the declaration by India, the threat by India that they'll shut off the water supply to 240 million people in Pakistan. Just making that threat is a violation of the UN Charter. They to act on that threat, Pakistan has been very clear. We'd consider that an act of war. I believe that all countries, I'd even sort of appeal to your viewers, everyone should speak with one voice condemning India's decision. We can't allow this precedent to set. We can't weaponize water. We've been to war with India before. We've had many exchanges such as this, but never such a drastic. At the moment, the threshold for conflict between India and Pakistan is the lowest than it's ever been in our history. We've achieved the ceasefire, but we have not achieved peace. As it stands today, if there's a terrorist attack anywhere in India or Indian-occupied Kashmir, proof or no proof, that means war. That's not a tenable situation. Pakistan believes there needs to be dialogue and diplomacy where we discuss all issues, terrorism, Kashmir, water, and start moving forward.
I think as part of any comprehensive dialogue, we'll have to discuss all issues. Of course, we have to discuss Kashmir as a root issue, as a reason why India and Pakistan keep going to war, but also because if we keep ignoring Kashmir, they'll keep producing the cannon fodder for terrorists to use in such an event. So we have to talk Kashmir. We're happy to talk terrorism. One country that the US president thanked in his address to the joint session after he was elected president was Pakistan for our cooperation. If we don't talk to India about terrorism, we won't be able to cooperate on terror. And the third thing is water. India is weaponizing water. They've threatened to cut off the water supply for 240 million of people of Pakistan. That's a violation of the UN Charter. That's surely something that no one can support. And we're really looking to the international community to add their voice at ours in condemning India's decision to cut off our water and call upon them to take back that decision. If we are to start a dialogue, I'm confident that we can sort out the multitude of issues between us, create a peaceful environment which will only, like for example, the US is talking trade with India, with Pakistan. If we have peace in the subcontinent, that trade deal will make sense. If we don't have peace in the subcontinent, if India is going to be trigger happy with potentially nuclear war, then that doesn't make sense for business. It doesn't make sense for the United States. It doesn't make sense for us, and it doesn't make sense for them.
India wants to sabotage President Trump's peace efforts, लेकिन इंशाल्लाह ताला इनके ये तमाम कोशिशें नाकाम होंगे। अमेरिका को अगर भारत को कान से पकड़ पे में इस पे ले आना पड़ेगा तो लेकर आएंगे, इसलिए ये दुनिया के इंटरेस्ट में post-conflict India is still relying on disinformation. This idea that you can paint all Muslims with the same brush, that you can just use the word terrorism and your own country will be convinced, the international community will be convinced. Maybe that worked in 2001, in 2003, but it doesn't work so well in our context in 2025. I call upon the Indian government to be honest with themselves, to be honest with their people. The fact of the matter is the people of Pakistan and the people of India are less safe today than they were yesterday. And it's my responsibility to keep my people safe. It's their responsibility to keep their people safe. We have not discussed terrorism. When is the last time that Pakistan and India had a conversation about terrorism? We have no intelligence sharing over terrorism. We have no coordination over terrorism. So how are we meant to combat terrorism? It's almost a self-defeating purpose. That you continue to insist you're so passionate about terrorism, but then refuse to work with countries to combat that very menace.
हमारा कोशिश ज़रूर ये होगा कि हम ये अमन का सफ़र को आगे लेके जाएं। साथ साथ हमें नज़र आ रहा है कि हर लिहाज से, हर तरीके से भारत का कोशिश जारी है कि ये अमन का जिद्दोजहद को सैबोटाज करे। इंशाअल्लाह ताला इनका कोशिश नाकाम होगा और अमन का कोशिश कामयाब होगा।
But I think the very easy answer to who won this war is who's lying to their people, whose media was lying to their people, whose government was lying to their people during the conflict, after the conflict. It took 1 month for the Indian government to admit that we downed their planes. Why were they hiding this fact from their people? Because the truth is they lost. We downed 6 Indian jets and they refused to admit it up until literally yesterday. So there's only one country that has been lying to their people. We've achieved a ceasefire, that's important. I think that's the true victory. The ceasefire is the victory, the kinetic victory, the diplomatic victory. Pakistan has its case. Dialogue and diplomacy has to be the start for us to address any and all issues. So Pakistan is willing to talk with India. We want peace, but peace is not possible, as you say, until we engage in a dialogue. Of course, I believe as we relied, or there was the international community's involvement in achieving our ceasefire, therefore it's reasonable to believe that if the international community plays its role in a similar way, perhaps we'll be able to establish perpetual peace, at least in South Asia.
As far as water, as far as the Indus Water Treaty, everyone we have met, obviously at the United Nations, but even here in Washington, D.C., they're all unanimous in condemning this decision. Everybody is expressing to various degrees how they don't want this precedent to be set. I'm sure in their conversations with the Indian government and their representatives, this issue will be raised. I don't think that this is a position that the Indian government is going to be able to sustain for very long. It is not the moral high ground, it is the lowest of the low ground to try and maintain this position that you're going to cut off Pakistan's water. I do hope that the international community, above and beyond geopolitics or any kind of partisan politics, would speak in one voice in condemning this decision.
Kashmir, before this conflict, in violation of international law, of course, in violation of the UN Charter, of course, in violation of the promises they made to the people of Kashmir. But the Indian line was that Kashmir is an internal issue for India. When President Trump talks about mediating peace and resolving the issue of Kashmir, it becomes an international issue. The Indians also now say, as a result of this 5-day war, that Kashmir is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. We are here to pursue peace. It's because we believe it is the only viable path forward, not only for India and Pakistan, but also the international community. India may have 1,000 issues with Pakistan. If you're going to refuse to talk to Pakistan, those issues will remain. In this case, the terrorist attack that took place in Indian-occupied Kashmir, Pakistan had absolutely no role whatsoever. We offered international impartial inquiry immediately. India refused. If the facts were different, the United States policy
in this context would also be very different. The truth of the matter is we had nothing to do with it. But terrorism is a problem.
जहां तक कश्मीर का सवाल है, ना सिर्फ पाकिस्तान पीपल्स पार्टी मगर पाकिस्तान का हर सियासी जमात कश्मीर के हवाले से एक वाज़े पैगाम रखते हैं। इस जंग के सिलसिले में जो कश्मीर के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में सफारती सतह पे काफी पेशरफ्त हुआ है इस अंदाज से कि भारत ने 2019 के बाद ये समझा कि इन्होंने कश्मीर को एक अंदरूनी मसला में तब्दील कर दिया। जब प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप इस जंग के बाद कहता है कि कश्मीर पे हमें मीडिएशन करना जरूरी है, तो कश्मीर का इशू अंदरूनी से लेके बैनुल-अक़वामी इशू बन जाता है और भारत खुद मजबूर हो गए हैं ये अंदरूनी मसला का डेफिनेशन से पीछे हटना। वो बैनुल-अक़वामी सतह का शायद उस लेवल पे नहीं पहुंच रहे, मगर वो खुद कबूल कर रहे हैं कि अब कश्मीर एक बायलैटरल इशू है। तो इस अंदाज में तो कश्मीर के मसले के हवाले से वाज़े डेवलपमेंट्स अभी सामने आए हैं और इंशाअल्लाह ताला मज़ीद डेवलपमेंट्स सामने।
There's no such thing as holding in abeyance. So the treaty is in effect, and India is in violation of this treaty and subsequently in violation of international law. We will continue to advocate for India to abide by international law, by the Indus Water Treaty. Pakistan may have its own issues with the treaty, India may have its issues with the treaty, but we can't unilaterally decide anything. We have to sit together, talk together, and reach a conclusion jointly, and then we can make any changes if they are to be. But the thing that I want to sort of convey on this is that we can't leave open new wounds, and this is a very dangerous precedent that India has started. The very easy answer to who won this war is who's lying to their people, whose media was lying to their people, whose government was lying to their people during the conflict, after the conflict. It took 1 month for the Indian government to admit that we downed their planes. Why were they hiding this fact from their people? Because the truth is they lost. They lost a kinetic conflict. Pakistan in self-defense, before there was any response from Pakistan's side, as our initial self-defense for their unilateral violation of our sovereignty, we downed 6 Indian jets, and they refused to admit it up until literally yesterday. So there's only one country that has been lying to their people. We've achieved a ceasefire. That's important. I think that's the true victory.
As far as being inspired, India being inspired by the Israeli government, unfortunately it's being inspired in all the wrong ways. And obviously the actions within Gaza recently have inspired some of the actions by the Indian government. Mr. Modi is sort of the Timu version of Netanyahu. Okay? It's a poor copy. And we call upon the Indian government to not be inspired by the worst examples possible. Where Mr. Modi started off as being perceived as the butcher of Gujarat, went on to become the butcher of Kashmir, and he aspires to be the butcher of the Indus Valley civilization with his assault on the Indus Water Treaty.
We are having a great conversation in trade. The tariff decision may have been a bad decision for other countries. For Pakistan, it's good because it means we're actually sitting with America and talking about trade rather than terrorism and war and all those other things that we used to be barring when this conflict went on. And now we have, for the first time, have an opportunity to talk in depth, see how we can expand the agricultural cooperation between the two countries. Pakistan has a wealth of mineral resources. We want to work with America to build the business in the mineral sector. There's the tech component where the world is our oyster as far as the potential that we can unlock on that front. But at the same time, for us to be successful in any of these things, if we have peace in the region, then businesses are going to progress. If we have peace in the region, I'm going to be able to convince American companies to invest, to come to Balochistan, to work over there like others are at the moment. If the Indian aggression is going to continue, if they're going to continue to support terrorist proxies in Balochistan that target those that invest in my country, then it's not going to create an environment that's conducive. Even if our trade talks go well.
May 7th this year, India launched illegal strikes within Pakistan, violation of the UN Charter, in violation of international law. They targeted civilian infrastructure, they targeted religious worship places, they targeted dam, water and energy infrastructure, and innocent civilians, women and children, lost their lives. India used as a premise for this attack the terrorist attack that took place in Indian-occupied Kashmir a couple of weeks earlier. We express our sympathy with the victims of terrorism, and Pakistan has consistently and unequivocally condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Immediately following this terrorist attack, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, offered publicly to India, the international community, that Pakistan was ready to be part of any impartial international investigation into this terrorist attack. We did so because we were confident, our hands were clean, and we had nothing to do with this terrorist attack. The Indian government refused Pakistan's offer and chose instead to conduct their illegal strikes.
The fact of the matter is the people of Pakistan and the people of India are less safe today than they were yesterday. And it's my responsibility to keep my people safe. It's their responsibility to keep their people safe. The Indian political environment is such that the word terrorist is used as a wolf whistle to either whip up sentiment against Muslim minorities within the Indian mainland, to demonize, to paint all Kashmiris within Kashmir who are opposed to the policies of the Indian government, not as legitimate voices of opposition, not as a form of resistance, but they demonize everyone as terrorists. Surely those who attack civilians are terrorists. But those people who raise their voice for the right to self-determination of their people are not terrorists. The Indian government has not only demonized Muslims within their own country and minorities within their own country.
As you're aware, India launched unprovoked, illegal and unilateral strikes within Pakistani territory. Pakistan believes that peace is only possible. Perpetual peace, lasting peace, is only possible through dialogue. We offered an impartial investigation. Third parties were invited to join any investigation that Pakistan would participate in. It was India that backed away from that offer of an investigation. Who were the terrorists involved in these attacks? Have they managed to not only identify them, but actually apprehend them? Instead, they launched unilateral strikes in Pakistan. As you're aware, Pakistan has a long list of complaints against India's involvements of terrorist attacks in Balochistan and Pakhtunkhwa and various terrorist groups within Pakistan. And we would like that we have such a forum where we can present each other's case into various terrorist attacks. We can get at the root cause and actually get justice for the victims of terror. And we also form such a body that could preempt sort of future events. Because as I mentioned, heaven forbid, there's another terrorist attack. We don't want that to result in a war between two nuclear-armed countries. So if we are able to establish such a forum, not just for this terrorist attack, but for other terrorist attacks as well, then I think that's absolutely something that Pakistan would not only consider, but would actively want. We downed 6 Indian jets. It took 1 month for the Indian government to admit that we downed their planes.
Not only do we not take on the terrorists, because we're taking on each other rather than the people who actually conduct these attacks, but we also endanger the lives of both our countrymen. And the way we saw the nuclear escalation, the way that the escalation ladder rose so drastically during this conflict, it's not too much of a stretch of the imagination to think that by the time there's another conflict, perhaps there won't be time for President Trump to intervene before things go horribly, horribly wrong. So when I say we are here to pursue peace, it is because We believe it is the only viable path forward, not only for India and Pakistan, but also the international community.
پاکستان کے ڈیلیگیشن نے ایک امریکہ کا کامیاب دورہ کے بعد یونائٹڈ نیشنز کا اور ڈی سی کا کامیاب دورہ کے بعد اب ہم یو کے پہنچے ہیں اسی پیغام کے ساتھ کہ پاکستان پہلے بھی امن چاہتا تھا، پاکستان اب بھی امن چاہتا ہے. پاکستان سمجھتا ہے کہ چاہے وہ دہشت گردی ہو، چاہے وہ کشمیر ہو یا جو بھی معاملہ ہو، جنگ ان کا حل نہیں ہے. جھوٹ بول رہے ہیں. انہوں نے جھوٹ بولا کہ اس دہشت گردی کی واقعہ میں پاکستان کا ہاتھ تھا. اگر وزیر اعظم صاحب نے جب آفر کیا کہ امپارشل انویسٹیگیشن ہو تو وہ نہیں ہونے دیا. بھارت نے جھوٹ بولا کہ ہم نے ان پہ جہاز نہیں گرائے، ہم نے تو ان کو چھ جہاز گرائے ہیں. مگر پاکستان سمجھتے ہیں کہ جس طرف بھارت ہمیں لے کے جا رہے ہیں وہ نہ پاکستان کے مفاد میں ہے نہ بھارت کے مفاد میں ہے. اگر کہیں بھی بھارت میں کوئی دہشت گردی واقعہ ہو، ثبوت بھی نہ ہو، اس کا مطلب کہ ہمیں جنگ پہ اترنا ہے. ہم دو نیوکلیئر عام ممالک ہیں. اس جنگ نے یہ ثابت کیا ہے کہ پاکستان ایک رسپانسبل ممالک ہے اور بھارت کے بیانیہ جھوٹ پر مبنی ہے، غیر ذمہ دارانہ کردار ادا کر رہا ہے. مگر امید ہے کہ پاکستان سچ کے ساتھ ہے، پاکستان امن کے ساتھ ہے اور الٹیمیٹلی جیت.
بلاول صاحب آپ
اے خلق خدا، ماؤں بہنوں بزرگوں جوانوں، اے ہاریوں مزدوروں ترخ